So I'm here with Roy Osherove, who is an instructor, a blogger, and an author. Roy blogs and teaches workshops about agile development and software team leadership. His most recent book is Notes to a Software Team Leader, which is being written and published on Leanpub. We're going to talk today about his book, about his experiences as an author, about Lean Publishing, and what led Roy to try Leanpub. And also, as a programming note, this is the first podcast I've ever done as the interviewer, so I'm sure I'll talk to you quickly and make tons of mistakes, so forgive me. Okay, so Roy, thank you for being on the first ever Lean Publishing podcast.
Thank you. I'm honored to be the first.
So before we get into discussing your book and Lean Publishing, I'd like to find out a bit more about your background. You on your blog, it shows you teach workshops. You're a blogger and an author. So how did this all happen?
Well, I've been in the software development business for about 12, maybe 14 years. I live in Israel, and I've always been, a software developer in my heart. And about maybe 10 years ago, I started a blog about .NET, and things actually rolled from there. I got a bunch of readership, and I got to write my first book at some point, which was about unit testing. It's called The Art of Unit Testing, and that led to speaking engagements and training and whatnot. And team leadership has always been a passion of mine. It's something that I've failed to do so many times that I've learned a lot about it. And so I'm doing the same thing that I did with my previous book, which is just sharing a lot of my mistakes.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I found myself, I was reviewing your book for this podcast, and I found myself just reading the whole thing and didn't prepare as much as I planned because it struck a chord with me in my own experiences, like going from a developer to trying to lead teams. So what led you to write Notes to a Software Team Leader? Like, was it like coming out of your training, or coming out of more like experiences like leading teams, or like how did that get started?
Well, the book, I view this book as more of a bridging book, much like the first one was. Notes to a Software Team Leader for me is a book that bridges people with no management experience and leadership experience with the most important basic material they should be introduced with, but very much from a down-to-earth point of view, no nonsense, real advice. Not necessarily in, let's say, industrial terms, as least uppercase letters as possible, if you will.
Jargon. Yeah, no, there's no jargon. I found it felt like reading a conversation. It was I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. And the point is, there was a series of books called 99 Things Every X Should Know, like a developer or an architect, and it's edited by Kevlin Henney. And I got to meet Kevlin in a bunch of conferences, and I said, wouldn't it be awesome if there was a 99 things every team leader needs to know? Unfortunately, the company that publishes his books didn't really like the idea for this book, and I didn't want to steal the naming convention.
Right.
So it's basically Kevlin's idea to call it Notes to a Software Team Leader, and he's getting full credit for this name because I think it really matches. So the second part of the book is actually community driven, and it's filled with notes and advice from team leaders and consultants and team leader wannabes and project managers about what would make it a good team leader to them.
Right. So yeah, I noticed that. Like, so I assume you're evolving this as you publish it. Like, it's currently around 30, 40 pages on Leanpub right now. And what's your plan for the book, like overall? Like, just keep going with more notes from other people, or add your own, like, expand it as well yourself, or what's your plan forward, or are you just evolving as you go?
Well, the plan is to have two parts for the book. The first part is the one that I'm writing, which is based on the blog at 5wise.com, and that's my notion of my biggest discoveries in the world of team leadership, which is about the idea of elastic leadership, and the idea of team leadership stages, where the team needs different things at different stages of its life. So that's when I finish this part, or the first part, which is probably going to be about 4 or 5 chapters, nothing more than that. I'm working on chapter 3 right now. I'm gonna add probably no more than 100 notes, and hopefully the book will be basically finished. Uh, and then I'm gonna print it and sell it because I'm teaching this stuff, and I'm really missing a book that encompasses the things that I'm teaching.
Right.
So
Yeah, no, I
this
know,
is
I know what
my
you mean.
companion book for my courses.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I really like the three phases, the chaos phase, learning phase, and self-organizing phases for the team, and then also the different leadership styles, like what you talked about, command and control, and coach and facilitator. Those really like, I think that they're really valuable to talk like to think like that because I find myself like looking at falling into either command or control or facilitator a lot, like defaulting to facilitator, but then moving to command and control. But it's nice. I haven't really thought about like. But it's nice when you have words for describing what you're doing, like design patterns, kind of. To me, it felt like when I read design patterns, and it's like, okay, yeah, these are just some names for things I'm doing, right? Then it's like naming facilitator, like, okay, this is to recognize what you're doing um, as that. I think it makes you more self-aware of what you're doing as a leader. And I really
Exactly.
found it valuable.
And
Um,
one of the biggest points of the idea of the elastic leadership in the book is something that I've been missing a lot, and it's basically a framework for deciding what type of leader should you be based on the current situation of the team. So it's more of a framework to say, what is the current situation of the team? Are we in chaos? Are we in learning mode? Are we in self-organizing mode? And then to change accordingly, because that's something that seems to be missing in terms of guidance for a lot of team leaders. Especially for me, it was missing, and I wish I would have thought about that when I just started out. But today, when I see team leaders make a lot of mistakes, once I have that framework in my head, it's very easy to to say, okay, so I can see that the problem is that there is a mismatch between the leadership type and the actual phase the team is in, and that's the problem. If we just match this one to the other, things would be better. And it also gives you a framework for deciding what type of advice to accept. Have you ever seen those questions on LinkedIn like, I'm a scrum master and my team, I have a person in my team who doesn't know who's always negative. What should I do? Then that person gets like 100 different responses, things of what they should do. And of course, each and every one of them seems to make sense, but a lot of them collide with each other. A lot of them are the opposites of each other. And so this is kind of a framework to say, okay, it depends. What is the phase the team is in? Because based on that, you either have time to work with that person and challenge them, or you don't. How do you challenge them? If the team is supposed to be self-organizing, are they really? And so your actions as a team leader will be different. So it's a framework to decide what to do based on the current situation.
right. For people, say for example, who might be better at say facilitating than coaching, like is there like do you try to look and follow the situation as much as possible, or do you take into account? Well, I might be like sort of like average or poor at coaching right now, but I'm excellent at facilitating. I'll try to facilitate my way out of this, or should you try to really like just improve your own abilities as a team leader and then try to really be a situational like do you take that does that take into account like the different like what the team leader is capable of, like if you're trying to coach and you're just doing a bad job coaching, are you only making matters worse or like
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question.
so I'm really good at facilitating. And I'm terrible at coaching.
Yeah.
I'm good at command and control, but I don't like I enjoy it, but I try to use it very sparingly because I think it's destructive if you use it a lot. Um,
Hmm.
but so for me, I try to like my own. Actually, I've the one thing actually one question I had sort of maybe related to this is how do you see lots of this in the Elastic Leadership chapter that I read so far was about seem to really talk to team leaders inside larger organizations. Do you see the same sort of dynamic applying to like smaller like startups, or do you think that things are just so chaotic in startups that it may make more sense to to apply this knowledge in larger organizations first? Like, is your target reader is sort of who's your ideal target reader? Is it a person in a sort of 100-person company, 1,000-person company, 5-person company? Like,
Mm-hmm. I don't, having worked with a startup mentality and moving to Ruby in the past couple of years, has taught me that I don't think that the Elastic Leadership stuff makes a lot of sense if you're in a startup mode and the whole idea is to just get feedback and see that you're on the right track.
Yeah.
So I think that it's more it's going to make more sense if you're in an enterprise related team
Right, where you know the product you're building and it's about delivering, like where you're in it, or you're doing traditional like, agile approaches.
I really come from the Microsoft world, and in the Microsoft world, it's a lot of enterprise stuff, and there's a lot of people problems because it's usually not a startup space.
Right.
And in that regard, you have a lot of time to work at your skills and improve your team. In startups, usually you would have a month or two to just develop something and get feedback. And I don't think it's the right place as a team leader to develop the people in their team over a month or two when there is only one
We
thing.
only have a couple months of runway. Yeah, that makes sense. It's
So
good
I
to
think
know.
you have grown past the initial startup stage where you actually know that you're building something of value, and now you have a long stretch ahead of you of multiple years that you know you're going to be working. Now is the time to start building a real team and growing them, etc. But in more of the initial seed stages, I don't see it happening too much right now.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, so in terms of uh, mechanics of your book specifically, like in terms of how you've gone about this, so what led you to use the lean publishing approach of self-publishing while your book is in progress?
Well, initially I was talking with Manning about doing this book with Manning, and they really wanted to. And then I was talking with Pearson Books about doing the book with them, and I actually signed a contract. But then the whole SOPA thing came on. And one of the things that I saw was that the Pearson folks were actually in support of SOPA. So I actually contacted them and said that I cannot work with someone who supports the SOPA Act. And
Wow,
so
excellent.
I broke
We're very anti-SOPA, as you may know.
and the more I look at the publishing world, the more I see that it feels like a big scam because I've published a book that is mildly successful. It has sold many thousands of copies. I mean, definitely more than 10. I think probably double that. I'm not sure. Um, and yet the royalties are just horrible. It's definitely no way to make money. It's a good way to make yourself known in
Yeah.
terms of maybe marketing, but um, for someone who believes in the idea of agility and incremental work, the process of writing a book with a is basically the opposite. It's the most extreme version of waterfall that can ever be imagined. You
Oh, I
expect
know.
to write the whole book, the whole table of contents up front, and then to kind of estimate how long it's going to take, and then to try to leave by that. And of course, everybody knows that's never going to work. But somehow you're expected to write the book, and 2 years later, you're supposed to finish it as if your mind is 2 years backwards.
Yeah, and if you have a good idea partway along, you can't change it. If you try to change your table of contents, then that's like a new proposal. Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. Once you're in, basically everyone's already in it with you, and then you can go ahead and say, "Look, it's going to take 6 months more, etc." So my first book actually took 3 years to publish because I just had a kid born. So I started my first book with no kids, and I finished it with 2 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and now this book, I just had a kid born 9 months ago, so that's interesting too. But my biggest problem was that the feedback mechanism, the feedback cycle of actually publishing the book and reviewing and doing the copy editing and all that stuff is just so slow and so horrible and so waterfallish and so bureaucratic. It just doesn't make sense. It's not. It's something that I would try to avoid at any cost. And so what happened was that I was looking at other publishers and I was looking at the Pragmatic publishing company. And I'm actually still thinking about working with them because the royalties are pretty good. They're doing a 50-50 royalty stuff.
Yeah.
And
After costs, right? You have to think
after
about
costs, yeah. It's still not amazing, but you can tell that they're trying to do the right thing there.
Right.
because I think they're developers, they're working with developers, and they have some amazing books that I've always wanted to be part of that, you know.
Yeah, no, I think I have programming Ruby. I have like, I think I bought about 10 pragmatic books. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I
and
mean,
the
same with
program.
Manning though. I've used one of the first programming books I read was like I think Manning's Java Swing book like way back in the day. I wrote a Manning book myself, right? Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, yeah, and I know what you mean.
horrible.
The funny thing. I understand your experience totally because I did two Manning books, and the first one I had self-published it while it was in progress, and then after
Get
it
in
was
trouble for
about
that?
well, what I did is before I had any contract with anyone, I was writing flexible Rails and I was self-publishing it. And what I was doing is I put the PDF on Lulu, and people could buy it. And in the thank you note, I said, "Oh, hey, this book is being updated. Here's a secret URL." And it was like flexiblerels.com/Rumpelstiltskin. And so my joke, right? Like, don't tell anyone this thing because this is the book you paid for. Is at this URL. And so I wrote the book in public and iterated, and then after I finished the first draft, then I was getting contacted by various publishers and did the deal with Manning. And my experience there was really positive because I had the first draft finished, and then it was just like, okay, take the thing and polish it, right, and make a book out of it.
Hmm.
And also my negotiating position was really good because I had a finished book and I was making lots of money, and so I could drive a hard bargain on the ebook royalties.
And that's
Um,
kind of where I'm driving to right now because I really like the Manning experience in terms of the people are really nice.
yeah,
They're just stuck in a world of a lot of bureaucracy, but they're trying to do the right thing.
yeah, and
Uh,
they add the most value near the end of the book, right? Like typesetting, copy editing, all that stuff happens at the end. Like
and the marketing too.
yeah, marketing and the channels. Like I mean, I don't know anything about selling print books and channels, right? But I found that like if you do something with a community, like if you write in progress and get your ideas out there when they're early. For me, what happened is the community sort of functioned like my development editor, and
Exactly.
and then when I was done the book, then I put it through the Sausage Factory and made a real book out of it, like a real physical book, etc. But the original the process of actually creating the first full version, I really enjoyed that self-publishing it. And
Yeah,
it seems like you're doing the same thing.
yeah. I don't want to hide the book as I'm writing it, and to me, the Leanpub process really fits because I'm an extrovert in many ways, and if there's one thing that I hate is to delay gratification. So I want to be able to like fix a typo or add like a missing bio to one of the writers and then click preview and then click publish. And within 3 minutes, everyone has the latest
Yeah,
version.
exactly. If you have a bug in your book, you don't like if it's a technical book and you have a bug in your book, you want to be able to push that out to readers like same day that you find it, right?
Exactly.
Or in your book obviously it's a technical book, but there's no code in it. It's a management book. But if you want to just change how you've phrased something, or if you want to release it, you want to be able to push out releases to your readers, whenever on your schedule, not like putting people in between you and your readers.
Yeah, and it's kind of like cooking because you get to decide on the cover. So I went to 99designs.com and I created a nice cover for it, and so it's like you're a child. So you're in charge of everything in terms of content, and you get to see it live, and that people actually, one of the nicest features that I like about the Leanpub stuff is that I could tell that people will actually buy the book before I actually started publishing it.
Oh yeah,
And that
with
was a
the
nice thing. That's kind of the lean idea is to say, is this the right thing? Will people actually pay for this? And so I get to see whether people actually pay for the book. And when it's out, even though it has like 2 chapters and a couple of notes, people are actually buying it. I have like almost 80 readers so far. And
yeah.
to me, that's well, it's not the most amazing success, but it tells me that there is there is a pocket of loyal readership that's just beginning. And to me, it's almost like a blog being written in live that's going to turn into a beautiful book.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, I've obviously since like I'm a co-founder of Leanpub, I can poke around and look at things. And I mean, I noticed that you've had people paying everything from the minimum to like over 10. Like your minimum price of your book is $2.99, and the
Yeah.
suggested price you're suggesting is $9.99. And I've
And
seen
I have,
like you've had people pay more than the suggested price.
yeah, like $15.
Yeah, and I've seen the spread has been very impressive actually. Like, um, lots of people have been paying over the minimum, which is fantastic. And I mean, when we launched it, when we were initially building the variable price feature, back in the day, Leanpub only had fixed price, and we had the idea for, hey, we should do variable price as well. And like kind of like, because based on the success of things like Kickstarter, seeing how people really want to engage, feel like they're participating in creating something. But yeah, this is seeing the data from books like yours. This made us realize, this is so good that we should just get rid of the idea of fixed price altogether. Like, it does not make any sense to charge a fixed price for a book.
Yeah, I have to say I'm pretty impressed. I think that you guys, and I'm feeling like I'm part of the beginning of a revolution in publishing. And I think a lot of people are going to start doing this in the next few years. We're just like the earliest adopters, but as the books become more and more published and printed, to have like a nice graphic that says published with Leanpub or incrementally published. I would call it linearly, as in the word linear. So,
I like that.
Yeah, so hey, I want dibs on that.
I love naming things too. Oh man, I have a weakness for naming things. Whenever I have a good name, I register the .com. It's like a habit, my domain habit.
Exactly. So I have like 6 domains on DN Simple.
I think I have an order of magnitude worse problem than you.
Wow. So ADD, welcome. One thing that I like is that there is a bestsellers, and my book is in the bestsellers. But at some point, I realized it's somehow not sorted by the amount of readers. So
it's by revenue. It's sorted by revenue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the reason we did that, and that'll show you how early stage we are, based on your revenue, and that. So the short head of our revenue is really good, and then it falls off. The reason we sorted it by revenue is that we had a couple books that had a free promotion that got a lot of press about a year ago, and so they had say over 1,000 copies that were just free, and so we wanted to give. It's a couple things. We should actually on the bestsellers page sort by. So excuse me. We should sort by we should let you as we should let a user of the website say, show me top. It's not like Apple where you say top free or top paid. What you really want to see is show me growth by grossing, which is what we do now, or show me number of number of copies, which would be which would just count free and paid equally. But we should find some way to weight. There should be some sort of weighting where if someone pays $20 for a book, it should be worth more than free.
I'm sure the listeners are about to choke both of us right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, I really like the process because it allows me to think freely and just change the book at my own whim. And geeks like me need that control. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you always have you done much experimenting with your price? Did you do $2.99, $9.99 right away, or did you change it around?
I just set it to $99 and so just to see what happens, and that's it.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know. It would be nice to have A/B testing or something, but you know what? The fact that people are buying it tells me everything I need to know. So basically, I'm okay. I'm fine with how things are going. So far, I'm happy with the design, and I think the whole idea of the lean publishing, of incremental publishing, and being able to see it as you write it, I think that I don't think that exists anywhere else.
Yeah, no, I'm when we designed Leanpub, we based it off my experiences. What I had to do though was a kludge. I had to use a service that was meant for selling finished print books, which is Lulu, right? But they also sold PDFs, and so I put a PDF on Lulu, and then I wanted to do it in progress, so I put a secret URL on my thank you note, and I also set up a Google group so that if you bought the book, you could join the Google group, and then I'd put updates on the Google group. But the whole thing relied on distributing updates. I had to post a file somewhere and email a Google group, and it was a big hassle. And I did it, and hundreds of people read the book, and it did well for me. But yeah, basically Leanpub is created to basically be the website I wish existed when I wrote Flexible Rails. And the funny thing is that the idea for the name Leanpub came from our first customer was Eric Rees, and he came to talk in Vancouver about lean startups, and we were talking with him afterwards. We were drinking with him and talking about what would he like in a publishing website, and he says, well, what I really like to be able to do is make a book out of my blog, because all the good content's right there. And we're like, well, we can do that. And so like the idea of, then that's when we realized that the sort of in progress self-published books and really dovetailed nicely with blogging and bloggers. And so we could look at blogs being a good starting point for like an optional starting point for in progress books. And so that's how the whole thing sort of happened, and why it's called Leanpub, is like lean publishing, which is sort of self-publishing an in progress book. So yeah, no, I think that you're basically our ideal author, and so like you're obviously you have technical skills in terms of you've written you're a coder, and you've written a technical book, and now you're writing a business type book, and so basically your feedback is really valuable to us. So like, is there anything that you wish Leanpub did right now that it doesn't?
Well, I know you guys were mentioning the idea of generating a PDF to fit with things like Lulu or etc., which to me would be a very good idea.
Right.
I want to be able to just, when I'm finished, just ship it off, just print it, and just have it on Amazon and the Kindle and all that stuff. Not even worry about it. Just being able to get a link and tweet that and be done with it within 10 minutes.
Yeah. No, what we're going to do there, I think, is currently you can put the PDF on Lulu, like yourself, and people do that. Like, for example, Eric Ries's Startup Lessons Learned book is on Lulu right now. And I think last time I looked some number of months ago, it was like in the top 1,000 Lulu books. But the thing is that the PDF is basically a PDF. Like right now with Leanpub, the PDF you put on Lulu is a PDF that's made for screen, right? And so we're going to develop a feature where we make like print optimized PDFs, where we take the cover page off, so you can do your own cover with. Yeah,
that's what I meant. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there isn't much that I miss, except maybe just being able to sort by readers, and now that I know it's by grossing, that at least I know what it means to be somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Yeah, it just means that we're somewhere in the beginning, because we definitely, I think it's just the beginning. More people. So I know Johanna Rothman is working on a book, and other people. A lot of people, I think, in the next couple of years will start realizing that there are benefits to not working through a publisher at the beginning, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I think publishers add value. The most value they add is at the end. And if in the beginning part of a book, if you want to write in public, there's lots of benefits. Hey, actually, I have a question. How, so far in terms of reader feedback, like have readers, like I know in Leanpub we have the ability for you to say email readers and send something from a form. Like, have you found that useful, or have you found readers like contacting you with email or Twitter, or has there been much feedback at all, or how does that process been so far?
There's been very little feedback from the readers. In fact, one of the things that now I think about it is that I miss is that I can't see the names of the people who bought my book.
Yeah. Oh man, this has been an internal debate on this. So at one point we were going to show everything of name, email of purchasers, but we didn't want to do email because that'd be bad, right?
Yeah, so, but the names at the very least, because I can see, like, I have a course on TDD on udemy.com.
Right.
And so there, when someone subscribes, I can see their name. And so I know who's actually part of my course. And if I know them, I can actually contact them directly.
Okay. So we can maybe have some checkbox or something on our form, like we could like make it default share name, say, and then checkbox opt out or be anonymous or something.
I don't know. I think that the person who actually purchases my book, I think that they kind of assume that I see all the information because I'm the author of the book, and they purchase it and they actually pay me in some way. So I don't think any kind of problem, at least giving their first and last name. I think it's actually expected.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. We'll have to think about it. It's weird. You make assumptions. Like we try to make reasonable assumptions, and it's like you'll always find someone who's like indignant about the fact that your assumption was quite just on the other side of what they thought. But but you can't let that deter you from building a good product, right? And so we have to figure out what the right balance is without making like our purchase form is really dead simple, right? The reason we don't take, with the sliders and stuff, and we don't want to do anything to make it more complicated, but I do know what you're saying. It would be nice for you to see names, and I think I'm actually going to take a note and maybe make a pivotal story for that. Optionally, show names of purchasers and opt out. Yeah, that's actually something worth considering doing. Pardon?
Now that I'm thinking about it, another feature that's missing to me is the analytics.
Yeah. Well, actually, we have Google. So have you, if you go to the edit info page, you can put a Google Analytics code.
Yeah, but I'm using getclicky.com, so I need to be able to put JavaScript on the page.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a much more powerful feature because not everyone uses Google Analytics. GetClicky is actually better, just so you know. Yeah, much better.
Yeah,
feature.
the weird thing is, okay, interesting. So our danger, we don't want to turn it into MySpace where everyone like made their pages look totally different. So we're trying to, we're a bit afraid of letting. But yeah, for analytic, like JavaScript for analytics and stuff, that makes sense as long as we could do it in a way that didn't open us up to being abused or. Yeah.
You create an author. I think you should experiment. Do it for a month.
Yeah, we should. We should try something, but also we're going to work on just providing.
Do an experiment.
Yeah, no, you're right. We should consider that for sure. Let's see.
Because using Google Analytics is kind of a bitch, it's always the interface is so complex and everything. And GetClicky, I seriously I advise everyone to go to getclicky.com and just use that. It's so much better, so much more usable than Google Analytics, and it's free for the basic 5 sites, and so it's pretty cool, pretty amazing.
Have you ever? So what we do right now is we use Google Analytics and Kissmetrics. We were considering trying to figure out if there's a way to expose Kissmetrics data to authors, automatically on
what
their
kind
page.
of data?
Like funnel, basically, like funnel analysis. Like what data do you want? I assume you're doing funnel analysis, basically, right?
I just want to see how many people go in, and so when I tweet about it, I want to see that it actually has an effect on the wave, on the analytics wave, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so Twitter is weird. Like Twitter traffic often shows up as direct. Like Twitter, because lots of people use different Twitter clients, and so. But yeah, if you at least knew the volume, then you'd be able to tell. Okay, well, I did a big Twitter thing here, and then boom, I have 100 more people.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Now that I think about it, one of the coolest things that I saw is I want to be able to at least embed a YouTube video on the page where I explain and I talk about the book, or there's a video of me doing a lecture about the book, or something like that. I think that will draw a lot of people into the read. It's like a landing page,
right?
So it is a book landing page after all. So
yeah, no, it is, and
there is, I think, a really powerful feature.
Yeah, actually, that's actually good. That's a really good suggestion. So our goal is and literally, if you don't mind talking about this for a few minutes, our design goal for the book landing page is to be good enough that people don't want to set up custom WordPress blogs just to point at their Leanpub books. And we've had an author who did this because back at our landing page used to be absolutely terrible. And so Manuel, he created a WordPress blog just to be basically no, actually it was a different person, but people have created WordPress blogs just to point at their Leanpub pages. And so we want to give we want to be flexible in terms of have things like videos and analytics and whatnot.
In that case, you have to be able to give me some JavaScript embedding stuff and YouTube embedding stuff, because that's how people customize the hell out of these pages, and so they feel they have control. They don't need to create their own.
Right. Yeah. So in terms of the layout, the current layout that we have now, is that we did a bunch of work on the page.
The current layout is almost perfect. I mean, in Explorer it looks pretty good, but in Chrome everything is too much to the sides. There are no margins to the right and to the left, but otherwise I kind of like it. It's clean, it's simple, but I want to be able to add some more information to it, in a structured way.
Right. And would you want that just to be yeah, I mean, Okay, no, I can see that. And so, like things like a YouTube video, I could see that living really nicely, like above the
Twitter
table of
icon
contents.
that links, like a big Twitter icon that links to my Twitter account, and a YouTube where it's right at the top of the page where I explain about the book or whatever. Yeah, or a background image I can set, whatever.
Okay, so I think you're probably going a tiny bit farther than we'll go, but I get the idea, and I think we're gonna do custom. I think we will start making this customizable, not like this week or anything, but I think in going forward. And when we do, actually, I'll ping you and see what your
But you know
feedback
what?
is.
Before even all that, I don't mind it. You keep decide as it is. Just give me the ability to have parts in the book instead of just chapters.
Ha! Okay, yes, you're the second person who's asked for this recently. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll do that for sure. That makes sense.
because my book is in two parts, and right
Yeah,
now I actually have a chapter for the notes instead of a part for multiple note chapters.
yeah. So okay, so what we want to do is keep. So here's the thing: we need to keep like the H1 being a chapter. I think because of so for the readers who don't, for the listeners who don't understand what we're talking about, in Leanpub you have a book.txt file that lists file names, and then you have like H1s or chapters, H2 or sections, etc. If we went and made parts be H1, then we'd break all the Leanpub books, and we wouldn't want to do that. So I think what we'd end up doing is for parts, I think the current thinking is either some special syntax, like inside a
Yeah, just a
text
special
file.
syntax like multiple lines or something that says part one,
Yeah,
whatever. It's just
yeah.
one hierarchy item up. So,
Do
by
you
the
need to
way,
be able to
here's a
name the
suggestion.
parts, or do you like, or is a number like? Do you want to be able to name it, or just part one, part two, like, or
Yeah, I should be able to name the parts.
okay, makes sense.
And each part should have an exposition, possible exposition, like
Ah,
like a paragraph.
yeah, okay. So then it's basically just like a special syntax for delimiting
Yeah,
a
basically.
heading, and then you just write text in there that looks like just normal text. Okay, that
And
makes sense.
I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to cut this podcast in half and say like the first half is the actual podcast, and the second half is just us
Well, this
talking about
is
pub.
well, I like this because this is Leanpub is a startup, and we're a lean startup, and we're doing customer. So part of this podcast is like about lean publishing and the lean publishing ideas because I'm going to be taking this and adapting some of it for my own book, like about lean publishing, right? And then
Yeah.
the other part is I want to stick the podcast on Leanpub about like hey, this is a Leanpub author who's enjoying using Leanpub and etc. But I think, frankly, I think that we're doing customer development, and if like we're trying to build the best site for people who are basically you, and so this is very much what Leanpub is. I think is this type of process. Like it's usually been during in emails and stuff instead of on a podcast. But for
Yeah.
me, this is what Leanpub is. And if you want to
Hey,
be like an author to use Leanpub, then yeah,
Peter, while we are all being honest and recorded and stuff,
yeah,
here's another request.
all right.
Um, so I don't get, and you're not the only guys doing this, but I don't get why do payments always have to be every 3 months? Why don't I get paid
Okay,
every
so they
month?
should be monthly. They should be monthly. You know why they're every
Yeah,
three
exactly.
months?
No,
This,
3 months is
no,
such a long time.
do you know why? It's
No.
because I'm the guy who does it and I'm lazy.
Ah, okay.
It's literally like
So
I'm literally going into PayPal.
attribute malice that which can be attributed
No,
to late.
we're going exactly. It's not malice. It's not even incompetence. It's sloth, and it's actually lack of automation. What it's going to be is we're going to obviously at some point probably use PayPal's Mass Pay or something to pay everyone automatically. I'm thinking about changing the terms of service so that if it's over a certain amount, it gets paid monthly. Like what I don't want to do is every month have to pay like for books that are just basically like
Yeah,
experiments
well,
and they have
I
like
think
one
it's over
sale.
$50 or
Yeah,
something.
if it's some sort of material amount of money,
Yeah,
we don't have this in some big bank account earning lots of interest for Leanpub. Like
yeah, but it
we
definitely
don't.
feels
It's
like that
just
at this point.
yeah, and so we've had that request from one other person as well, and yeah, the better you do, the more of a request it is, and so yeah, for books, I think we'll change the terms to be like over a certain amount monthly, otherwise quarterly, and then yeah, the other aspect is ironically, I went to go to go code the way that the code works to mark things as paid is written really inefficiently, because when I first coded it, we didn't have as many successful authors as now, so I actually have to rewrite the code that actually marks things paid.
Hey, congratulations!
Yes, I'm happy about that. It's first world problems, right?
Exactly, champagne problems.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll change it to monthly. What's reasonable to you? Like $100, $200, like before it's done?
I would say anything over $50 is payable.
$50? Yeah, sure, that's fine. Yeah. So here we go. I'm not going to cut this podcast. I'm just going to put it up there as is. I think I like this.
Sure. Make it raw. Make it bleed.
Yeah. So
Sure.
Okay. Anyway, this was really good, Roy. Do you have any? Let's see. I mean, I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. So you're fine with this being a podcast, and also with me excerpting or quoting it entirely in my Lean Publishing book, or just snipping certain parts out and whatnot, right?
As long as I get to review the stuff you wrote about me on the book, yeah.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. Cool. I'll actually ask you to contribute something about yourself, probably the easiest. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot. Thank you for being the first Lean Publishing podcast guest. Yeah.
It is my honor.
Thank you. And I'll ping you before we post the podcast, and I'll also ping you before I post anything in Lean Publishing.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks a lot, Ray.
And great work so far, guys.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you later. And thanks for being a Leanpub author.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.